Namaskar. Welcome to this third class on New Humanism. Today is the last one. We have been talking about the various sentiments that we see, that we find in the human beings today. And these sentiments shape the way our society is. The happenings in our society, many are related to these various sentiments. And these sentiments actually create many situations for us human beings and also for other beings on this planet. Last two classes, we talked about the geo-sentiment, which is related to a geographical location. When love is limited to a geographical location, we talked about social sentiment, when my love is limited to a group of people. And we talked about humanism, is when this social sentiment expands to include all people. But we also saw that all these sentiments are based on a certain selfish feeling. Then we talked about new humanism, which embraces all beings. But not only that, it also gives this idea that we are all moving together towards a destination, a common destination, all beings. So we are all companions on this movement. And that means all creation, all inanimate and animate beings. We saw that many people pose as humanists, but in fact, they just use certain strategies, which we talked last time. A metamorphosed sentimental strategy means they use one sentiment to gain some power, position, and then when that sentiment doesn't work anymore, they change to a different sentiment. So in fact, they are not humanists, they are pseudo-humanists. And then I gave a homework, and this homework was to search if you find some historical figure or some situations where people use this kind of strategies in the world today. I got a few replies on this homework. The first one from Deepa, I will read what she sent, which is on the screen. This article appeared in the News Journal, a Delaware newspaper. Climate change and global warming remains a hotly debated topic. This professor is supposed to have received grants from fossil fuel industries and rich supporters who don't believe that human activities are responsible for global warming. If this report is true, it will be an example of pseudo-humanistic strategy. Basically, here in the article, the headline is that UD's David Leggett's caught in climate change controversy. It seems he talks about climate change and then he received grants from supporters who don't believe it. So that is kind of, he presents himself in one way and then in another way. The next article is from Anna. Anna is also cannot present it. She said, I choose the movie Ascending Jupiter or Jupiter Ascending. Actually, I choose the film directors, Andy Wachowski and Lana Wachowski, for the movie theme they chose for this film. Why? I think this is a new humanism theme, a new humanism act to raise the people's consciousness to think big and act big, even if they are small. So for the message they choose to give us by making this movie, making a movie with this message to be seen by so many people with such a clear and profound message is like spreading new humanism. Oh, it's like spreading a new humanist seed in each mind that saw this movie. Okay, so that is about this one. The next one is Alex. Alex is present, and last time he had a microphone and everything. Let me unmute you, Alex. Alex, would you like
Hello,
to
can you hear
speak
me?
about this one? Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. All right, so it was interesting because I had a little bit of an issue trying to find something that would fit perfectly. But this article said, world states must work together for humanitarian reasons to battle ISIS. And I think oftentimes we see, go to war for humanitarian reasons, which is almost contradictory in nature. Or two, we say we need to do this for humanitarian reasons, but usually when countries get involved, it's really not necessarily for humanitarian reasons. They only do it something that solves their own interest. And I was also looking for examples on the global warming as well, because sometimes they talk about its effect only on humans. They don't necessarily think of, necessarily the effects on anything else when it's talked about.
Hmm. Okay, great. Okay, thank you, Alex. I will talk a little bit more on this part, how to become a new humanist. In a few words, we have to expand the mind. By expanding the mind, we expand the love, and that love includes not only the beings that are close to us, but everyone and every being. But it's easier said than done because many times we think we are new humanists. When we think, yeah, I like everybody, I'm okay with everybody like this. But it's very subtle, the influence of all the social sentiment and the geo sentiment in our mind. And that happens on our day to day life, how we act, and even how we prioritize our life. Sometimes we are under the bondage of these sentiments and we don't even notice. To really become a new humanist is kind of a hard work. So let's talk a bit about it. We saw in the previous class that we need spirituality. Without spirituality, it is not possible to overcome both geo-sentiment and social sentiment. It, it just happens naturally. For example, maybe we travel abroad and we see a restaurant that is from our country or serving our food. We go there. Or we meet somebody from our country, we immediately bond with that person. Subtle things, but happens means we are still kind of influenced by these sentiments. And many times we may think, no, but I'm kind of free from it. I see everybody in the same way and like that. But that's why a very deep spirituality is needed that makes us a real new humanist by nature, but we really become from within, in all our being becomes new humanist. So in the first phase, here we are practicing spirituality. In the first phase of spirituality, we, by dint of our practice, we manage to withdraw from external physicalities. You know that when we sit down for meditation, it is a hard to withdraw from the external world. Our mind still remains connected to the external world. We are trying to do our practice and we're still thinking about things that are happening in the external world. Even though we are trying hard to withdraw, to meditate, to go deep within, still the mind is connected with it. So it is a kind of a step to be able to withdraw from the external physicalities. If we can do that, then we are really able to help the world. What is the point here? The point is that to be able to help the world, you need to be able to withdraw from it. When you withdraw from it, you become, let's say, free. And that freedom allows you to really do good to the world in a very selfless way. In the second phase, so now in the first phase, you were able to withdraw completely from everything that's external, the world, and the mind that is, let's say, objectivated, the mind that is going outwards. The moment you are able to withdraw from that, then you come to the part of the mind that is the doer I, means the part that has the capacity to act, but is not the externalized mind. For those of you who attended the philosophy course, in the first phase, you are withdrawing from the external physicalities. In the second phase, you are withdrawing from the chitta. And now you are in the aham, in the doer I. When you can withdraw from the objectivated part of the mind, then you can really understand the mind. And if you can understand the mind, you can understand other minds also. And that's why it says that at that point, you can feel all the pains and agonies, pleasures and joys of the human mind. The moment you withdrew from that objectivated part of the mind, then you can really understand it. Then you can be free from all dogmas, because all dogmas are happen in this objectivated part of the mind, or the chitta. So now in the second phase of spirituality, you are withdrawing from that. Now, the moment you withdraw, then you can understand it. Then you can be free from it. Then only you can be dogma free. Then we have to withdraw from that part of the mind also, the aham part. And there comes the third phase. We go to the pure I feeling. At that moment, you can understand all lives. You can, in the words of Sri Anandamurti, one feels the charm of all lives. That's the pure I. In fact, I should say, in the words of Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar, because when he gave New Humanism, he gave in the name of Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar. So that's in that third phase, then one will be able to really do good for the whole creation. So what is the new humanistic approach? Just as one's life is dear to one's own self, so the lives of other creatures are dear to them. Prabhat Sarkar. Every life is important. Every being is important. Now, as human beings, as the most developed beings in the planet, our work is to care for all beings. So not only for human beings, not only for my family, every being is important. Every being is moving towards a common destination. So now we are the most developed. We are like the guardians. Like in a family, you have the parents. The parents will take care of all the kids and everything. We have to do that. So that's the new humanistic approach. Then we reach the third phase in the I feeling. We have to go beyond that. And beyond that is consciousness. Then we will attain oneness, will be beyond duality when we reach consciousness. So the withdrawal here, first from the external physicalities, then from the objectivated part of the mind, the done I, the chitta, then from the aham, the doer I, then from the mahat, the I, the pure I, then we reach fourth phase, consciousness. That's when we can say that we are perfectly established in spirituality. Then here, automatically we are new humanists. Before, not yet, but if we accept new humanism from the start, from the beginning, from the first phase, we are already thinking in a new humanistic way. We accept that philosophy and the application of it. So in this way, Prabhat Sarkar says that the earlier one accepts new humanism, the more benefit one can bring to the world. What happens here? I can meditate, I can practice spirituality, but in the beginning, in the first phases of spirituality, I don't need to be new humanist. Even though I'm meditating, I'm going deep within, but in my external dealings, I'm still not a new humanist. But to attain the goal, I become new humanist. There is no way, because when you attain the goal, then you understand that everything is one. But if you were not accepting new humanism before, then you didn't do much good for the humanity. You were not active in the humanity. Maybe you were doing at home your meditation and everything, and in the external world, you were just living like everybody else. You couldn't be so useful to the world. But if from the beginning we accept new humanism, then in all this time we'll be developing ourselves, we'll be able to bring more good things to the world. Practical spirituality has three aspects: knowledge, action, and devotion. How does it work? I attain knowledge. Good. Knowledge has a certain value, but if I don't apply the knowledge, it will not have value. So the application here is the action. I get knowledge, but I do something. And by doing, by action, with knowledge, I get devotion, which is the result. Suppose I learn meditation. Okay, I learned something, I have some knowledge. Now I have to practice, and I have to practice a lot. Means maybe to learn, it took me half an hour. I learned meditation. Now to practice, it will take me half an hour every day. So more action, less knowledge. So action is more, knowledge is less, then I get devotion. But if I have a lot of knowledge and I do very little action, then I will not get this devotion. The devotion is something that comes from within, some kind of love or some kind of enlightenment. And that's the result of action with knowledge. The formula is action minus knowledge equals devotion. It means action must be more, so that when you subtract knowledge, you get some devotion. If you have more knowledge, less action, then you don't get the devotion. So spirituality as a cult means practice. It is a physical, psycho-spiritual process. If you see, the yogic practice includes the body, includes the mind, and spirit, takes you towards the spiritual. All aspects of human being are involved in the practice. So that's spirituality as a practice. Spirituality in essence is when there is an effect in the collective mind, let's say the mind of humanity. Imagine the whole humanity has a certain mind. When there is a change in this collective mind, let's say the collective ectoplasm of all humanity, that's spirituality in essence. Now, through our practice, also through our expression, we are influencing other minds. Other minds are being influenced by what I think and by what I do. If that influence becomes enough to influence that collective psychic mind, then comes spirituality in essence. Then spirituality as a mission, that's when one individual, let's say consciousness, merges or connects, coincides with the cosmic consciousness, as the individual existential nucleus, the individual I, coincides with the cosmic existential nucleus, the cosmic I. So in New Humanism, to become a New Humanism, a New Humanist, spirituality begins as a cult, evolves to spirituality in essence, and reaches the maximum in spirituality as a mission. Spirituality has these three aspects: knowledge, action, and devotion. I have a question here, let me answer it. Does accepting and practicing New Humanism from the very beginning help in the path of spirituality? Yes, it helps, because by practicing the New Humanism, it's like we are removing barriers from our mind. The title of the course was New Humanism, Liberate Your Mind. The title of the book is New Humanism, The Liberation of the Intellect. The intellect, our intellect, it's one essential characteristic of a human being is the intellect. For the intellect to be liberated, we have to remove all boundaries. And what are these boundaries? The various sentiments that we are carrying, that I'm this, I'm that, and how we are acting in the world. If we can understand, I'm a new humanist, I'm a being in this creation, and I'm related to all the beings, and you start feeling oneness already with everything. So that helps a lot to accelerate spiritual progress. But spiritual progress can happen by people doing spiritual practice, even if they are not new humanists. But when they reach very high spirituality, then there is no way but it's kind of they realize new humanism. But then they couldn't do much for humanity. One step back, we are talking about spirituality, and we talked about these three aspects: knowledge, action, and devotion. Now let's talk about the aspect devotion. Devotion is the what we are looking for. Knowledge and action basically are just helpful to get devotion, but we are looking for devotion. This devotion has also three phases. When devotion is a cult as a practice, then we are developing this proto-spiritualistic mentality. Proto-spiritualistic mentality is a spiritual mentality, a mentality that everything is an expression of cosmic consciousness, and I'm practicing to reach cosmic consciousness. So now, with this mentality, I developed this principle of social equality. So the principle of social equality will be the base of proto-spiritualistic mentality. Now I'm cultivating devotion. Then, when I get established in this proto-spiritualistic mentality, then it becomes devotion as a principle. At that moment, I can fight social sentiment. So I can only fight social sentiment when I get established in proto-spiritualistic mentality, in that principle that of social equality, sama samaj tattva, everything is one, same. Now, when externally I'm a new humanist, so new humanism is operating in the external sphere, then inside that devotion as a principle develops into devotion as a mission. So we have also devotion in these three aspects: cult, principle, and mission. So here is from Prabhat Sarkar. When new humanism overflows in all directions, making all things sweet and blissful, unifying individual and collective life, transforming this earth into a blissful heaven, then that's spirituality as a mission. At that point, there is a balance between individual and collective life, and there is not anymore conflict. So that's what's going to change the world. In fact, we think today that the world cannot change because the people who are in power, they are so powerful, they have so many weapons, and they are controlling everything. So how to change it? That's the point of spirituality in essence. And the spirituality in essence changes the collective mind. If there is a change in the collective mind, then everything changes. Because these leaders today, they can maintain their position, power, because they have some control over so many minds. But if those minds change, then all their power is gone. If externally there is some disturbance in mental balance, how to counteract? Through psycho-spiritualistic processes. Externally means more in the physical, mental, physical-psychic. Now we are talking about psycho-spiritual. So psycho-spiritual can counteract physical-psychic. So leadership really starts on the psycho-spiritual level. If a leader is not elevated on the psycho-spiritual, he cannot do much on the physical-psychic. Why? Because at a certain point, his individual mind will also be influenced by the physical-psycho level. And he will fall in the same trap of the trend. So now if that leader wants to change the trend, has to be established on the psycho-spiritual level. Then one can create change in the physical-psychic level. We need a new type of leader. This new type of leader in Sanskrit is called Sadvipra. That's one of the definitions in the philosophy of New Humanism, the definition of Sadvipra. Sadvipra being a leader which is psycho-spiritually elevated, therefore can create change in the physical-psychic level. Is based on human value, and these Sadvipras take social responsibility. It is important to take social responsibility. I remember that when I was growing up and I used to see politics, and I used to notice that the people who were more honest in the society, they were not involved in the politics and they didn't want to get involved. And the result was that the people who were not having the same moral standard, they were the ones dominating the politics. So that's why it's important that if somebody is a new humanist, should also take some social responsibility, because only then society can change. I'm going to come to a summary here. In this summary, I want to give a general idea. So how to become new humanist? You see here, there will be 4 phases. Now in these phases, it's important that we understand the human mind. So the human mind, we have our external existence, our body, through the sensory and motor organs connected to the external world. One step back, we have the objectivated part of the mind, which is the chitta. Then another step back, we have the doer I, or the aham, the part of the mind that has the capacity to act, or the ego. So we have to go one step back, and then there is the part of the mind which it has the I feeling, the I am. And we have to also withdraw from that to reach pure consciousness. That's the fourth phase. So now spirituality starts as a cult, means as a practice. When it's the spirituality in essence, as a cult, we are talking about, we are practicing, as individuals, we are practicing it. But when we talk about the spirituality in essence, it is not anymore the individual mind, it's now talking about the collective mind. In this case, let's say the collective mind of humanity. Now it's a spirituality changing the collective mind of humanity. So spirituality has grown, practice has been going on, people have been changing, and now it creates an effect in the collective mind of humanity. And then spirituality as a mission is when one really, like the unit I and cosmic I, coincide. So spirituality, the practical spirituality has these three aspects: the aspect of action, the aspect of knowledge, and the aspect of devotion. Now, the devotion, you see, we are, let's say, practicing, following, developing spirituality through these three aspects: action, knowledge, devotion. And devotion has also three phases. Means our devotion is growing, growing, growing. So in the beginning, it's a cult, it's a practice. It means it's not yet, we are not yet established. We are practicing it. Then, as it develops, it becomes devotion as a principle. And as it develops more, develops to the point that it's devotion as a mission. In devotion as a mission, then there is external life and internal life, that is oneness in individual life and collective life. So what we need to implement a new humanism is we need this new type of leaders, Sadvipras. They are physically, mentally, spiritually strong, very much elevated spiritually. So their psycho-spiritual development in such a way that they can now influence the physical psychic world. Questions and answers. If you have any questions, you can ask now. Okay, if I can quickly review the phase again. Okay, let me bring back the previous slide. The four phases. Let's talk about the four phases. In the first phase, we need to be able to help the world. If we are, I put in this way, if there is a problem, if we are part of the problem, then we cannot solve it. To be able to solve a problem, we have to be unaffected by that problem. Therefore, if the problem is in the external world, if we want to be able to help it, then we have to be able to withdraw from it. So the first, we have to be able to withdraw from the external world. Let me bring back the slides here. If we want to help the world, we have to be able to withdraw from it, completely withdraw. The moment we manage to withdraw from the world, then we can help the world. So that's the first phase. When we withdraw from the world, we are still in the mental, in our mind, in the objectivated part of the mind, means the most external part of the mind. If we can withdraw from that, then we can understand how the mind is. When we can understand how the mind is, then we'll be free from the limitations of the mind. Then we'll be able to understand all the pains, agonies, pleasures, and joys of the human mind, because we manage to withdraw from that part of the mind. Then we can understand it. And all dogma, everything is in that part of the mind. Then we'll be dogma free. And that is done through the practice of spirituality. So if we don't practice spirituality, we will not be able to withdraw from the external world, we will not be able to withdraw from the chitta, which is the external part of the mind. We will not be able to really be free from dogma. Then the third phase is when we can withdraw and come to that part of the mind where is the pure I. Then we'll really understand all lives. And if we can do that, then we can be of use or helpful to all beings. So that's the third phase. Then we understand that all lives are important, because the I is in all lives. And the final phase is when we go into the level of consciousness. We withdraw from the mind to the level of consciousness. Then we achieve oneness or no duality. So these are the four phases. Now there is another question. But if the average person is not established in spirituality or a follower of the spiritual path, can one Sadvipra or even a bunch of Sadvipras establish a proper society? The thing is that just a few people may not change everything. You need a number of people. You need a certain number. Even if that number, suppose there are many people practicing spirituality. Okay, a number of people are practicing spirituality. A number of people are hearing about new humanism. A number of people are feeling, yes, they are trying to become new humanist. That is already creating a change in the collective mind. Now, that change in the collective mind brings changes in the society. And maybe the society will not become perfect, but many ideas will be removed. And we see this in the present day world. We saw big changes. For example, I remember when I was in Europe, and basically half of Europe was under so-called communism. And there was so much repression in that system. But at a certain point, there was a big change. That whole area changed. The minds of those people changed. So, so that was a change in the collective mind. Now in the world, we are seeing a kind of a very extreme situation in the Middle East and spreading in various parts of the world. Some change is approaching because now many people are starting to think about that situation. They are thinking about that problem. They are creating opinions. Their mind is thinking, creating an idea about that problem that is happening. And the collective thinking of all these people is creating a change. So it's bound to change. And if on top of that, if we get sadvipras, people who are really providing this spiritual leadership, then it will accelerate the change. Because people need to get ideas from others. You know that people today, let's say everybody's networked today. Means I saw the other day, I don't know how many billion people are connected to, how many, like say, million or billion people are connected with Facebook. There are people all over the world, in all countries, they are connected through internet. So when an idea comes, that idea can spread quickly. So people are looking, they are reading, they are researching ideas. So ideas, if there are leaders, people in leadership position, which are sadvipras, they will they will be able to influence lots of people because everybody is so connected. So we don't know how things are going to develop, but one thing we need to do is that if this idea spreads to more minds, especially younger minds, and like this, it can really catch, you know. And people are looking. There is a kind of a vacuum of ideas, vacuum of these good ideas. And I remember in my case, for example, when I first heard about new humanism, I felt that it was something that was in my mind, but I couldn't bring it out. And when I heard it, I felt immediately some connection with it. So I think it has the capacity to spread quickly. And I want to thank you for participating and making this course possible. There is a lot more to say about new humanism, and I might have gone a bit quick over certain points, mainly because I didn't want to miss them. I wanted at least to mention them. And the book, The Liberation of Intellect, is a good reading. And now that you took the course, you may be able to catch it easier. And if anybody's interested, you can also contact me. And that's it. Thank you so much. And good night. Namaskar.